Hello and welcome to the Think Liberty podcast. I'm none of your goddamn business. I think this is episode 34. I'm pretty sure this is episode 34. It's really bad that I keep forgetting these episodes and the intros. You'd think I'd be better at remembering it. Is it 34? Okay, yeah. It's 34. All right. I'm not going to edit that out either because I'm lazy. Anyway, episode 34, you just heard Caitlin. Caitlin, hello.
Hello.
Caitlin is joining us this evening. Also joining us is Lonnie. How you doing?
Hi. Doing good.
And Chris.
You didn't ask me how I was doing?
I didn't. I know how you like to work.
Well,
you like to.
Yeah. You know that I like to ask you how you're doing. By the way, Vinny, How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good.
Okay. So is there anything exciting going on with you guys before we get, started with this episode and jump into anything? Anything going on?
I mean, I don't think anybody wants to hear about my boring life. I mean, just starting a business and all that kind of stuff. And, national convention's coming up in 5 days. Libertarian National Convention, New Orleans.
Oh,
yeah. All that.
It's going to be a real party.
It will be exciting in some respect. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hesitate to say it won't be boring because people will be arguing about bylaws. But, with everything else going on, I think it's going to be quite a lively event.
Lively is a good word.
That is a good word for it, yeah. So we don't have anything really specific that we're going to go over in this episode. I've got some news topics, and it's kind of like pointing to a larger point. I just... Man, right now, politics are getting so insane. It's extreme everywhere. The Democrats, the Republicans, even the Libertarians, man. Everything is just, I feel like...
The Libertarians? Really?
No.
Right. Speaking of crazy news from the Libertarian front, Caitlin has a tweet from a former Libertarian presidential candidate. When was this tweet?
Oh, gosh.
Quote?
I think it was, let's see, June
Twattered.
18th. So last week.
This is a good one.
All right. So
This is a good one.
From John McAfee. Whale fucking. No joke. Each year on February 1st in the Molokai Channel, a few men compete in the world's only whale fucking contest. Humpback whales are easy to fuck for a second or less. 31 seconds. I competed once. Almost got my ribs crushed. Stick with ostriches.
Boy, and she cut out there for a second, but I believe the part that cut out is you were saying that the record was 31 seconds. Anyone else find it ironic that it's a humpback whale that is the easiest to mount?
Well, I mean, a sperm whale probably would have made a good joke.
I've never thought about the
coming.
differences and, utility of whale fucking, but I guess, yeah.
You know which
There's
ones you
just so
don't
much
want?
in that tweet.
You don't want to mess
What's
with those
that?
killer whales. Those are
Right.
the ones you don't want to mess with.
Okay,
I
so
do not want to free Willy.
I wonder where this is. Did you say it was in the Malachi channel? Like Malachi?
Mollokai. I just pronounced it phonetically. I don't know how you actually say it.
Molokhi channel?
There's just so much going on here in this tweet.
Chris is trying to find out who.
No, I'm trying to find where this is. Okay, so it's in the Hawaiian Islands. All right.
Okay, but then he finishes it off with stick with ostriches. Like, now it begs the question, has McAfee fucked an ostrich? And why is this man running for president and the Libertarian Party considering him? I can't.
Well, I mean, when your other options are, Bill Weld and a guy...
I would take Bill Weld over McAfee. I'm sorry.
I would not take Bill Weld over McAfee.
Well, at least Weld doesn't tweet about fucking whales and ostriches. I can't.
I would say that tweet was much better than vouching for Hillary Clinton.
And vouching for some form of gun control. I mean, come on, if a guy wants to fuck a whale, then I'm just have sex with a whale, then I'm just that's like, okay, whatever. But if you want to take away my guns, then that affects me.
Worse than fucking a whale. What?
You know what? That's his prerogative. Well, if he wants to die by having sex with a whale, then that's fine.
We're talking about
aren't we libertarians? Aren't we libertarians? Should we not be okay with however a person wants to spend their time? Is that not the world we're trying to create? That is much better than vouching for Hillary Clinton. Much better.
Oh, this is the level that we're forced to, argue about. That.
Yeah, right. We were gonna talk about how he almost died or something, but this is way more interesting than that.
He did almost die though. So apparently somebody tried to roofie him fatally, which it wouldn't be roofied technically, but you get what I'm saying. And I guess he was in a coma for 2 days. And
I think he's done enough drugs to where there's nothing you could do to kill him by any chemical means.
Yeah,
dude. McAfee has lived 30 people's lives.
Yeah,
dude is on another level. I do think it's hilarious though that we're sitting here talking about who's better, Bill Welder or McAfee. God damn it!
That's the terrible reality that we face, is that we have to discuss this.
We need some better candidates. We got Captain Shitcoin or the Hillary shill. This is not great. Things could be. Yeah.
Yeah, I still got to give it to McAfee. That's just how much I cannot stand Bill Weld.
What about you, Chris?
What about me?
I hope he listens to this podcast so he can hear me say that.
What about you? If you had to pick between Welder or McAfee?
Okay, well, I'm going to be a little B and say neither, because I do not think that the national LP should be focused on a presidential candidate. Period. I think that there's enough battles to win at lower levels like state and local, that they need to be focusing on funding and fundraising for the local candidates more so than the presidential candidate, because all that is advertising. The LP is not going to win a presidential candidacy. 2016 was the best year that we ever saw. We had, the best year that the LP ever saw, that they had increased membership and all this kind of stuff, and they put forth Gary Johnson, and guess what? We didn't even scratch the surface on freaking votes.
Okay, while I agree with you on the utility of running for president, we're not going to win for a very, very long time, and that's only if we start getting our shit together now. Okay, we have to run a presidential candidate to secure ballot access. It's the best way to get ballot access in all 50 states, which we still didn't do, but we came really close. And it's educational. It's the only election that almost everyone pays attention to. So you're going to pull in the libertarians. So we have to run a POTUS candidate. And that's why I don't really care as much the most winnable candidate like Weld, because we're not going to win anyways. We need to have a radical yet sensible person out there educating people. So
Kokesh.
No. God, no.
Yeah, right. No.
No.
We need a whale fucker.
No McAfee, no Kokesh, no Weld. We'll have to figure out somebody else.
Who are we left with?
We have plenty of people who would be decent, but I won't.
Has anyone thought to try and talk to the whale?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that scandal? CNN just lines up a whole bunch of whales. They have a whale watching team with microphones, in the ground. There's
I just had a realization.
What is going on?
I just had a realization. So, okay, big movers in the blockchain are called whales, right?
Right.
So, is this a metaphor?
No, I think John McAfee is actually talking about whales.
Actually fucked a whale.
Yeah.
I think he's really talking about whales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Okay, let's say your analogy is correct. What's the ostrich then?
See?
People who leave the blockchain because ostriches are birds.
Putting their heads in the sand. People that don't invest. Maybe that's it.
Oh, there we go.
No, I think he just...
No, I really think it's a whale. Like a legit whale.
Yeah, probably.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so
now that we've gone over that hump.
I did want to share something. I found an article here. This is a bit bothersome. It's kind of a crushing blow. really to kind of like road safety overall. It's in Saudi Arabia, women are allowed to drive now. So
hey,
that's been news for a while though.
Hey.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make the joke, and I guess it finally like went into it rolled out. I was combing across articles for this episode, and I saw it on one of the apps I was in.
Well, how's that supposed to work if they can't see through their little head things?
They have eye holes.
Oh my gosh,
you're gonna have to edit that out probably.
Hey, at least it's something. Fine. It's progress. That's good.
I wonder how insurance companies are responding to that.
We'll leave it.
Do they have insurance? I guess maybe they'd have insurance companies.
Yeah.
Do they have it?
They
it's
have
not
to
the
now with women. Okay, there's a lot of weird shit that goes on inside. I don't know why I didn't think they had insurance companies. I guess they have to now with women driving, right?
Right, I would hope so.
maybe insurance companies popped up specifically for women. I don't know. Like
I closed the article. I didn't expect to have to actually go into this topic here, but I'm looking into it.
So
yeah, I don't know. It's just a bunch of virtues. This is a HuffPost article, so it's just
we kind of don't want to go into that, do we?
It's just a whole bunch of interviewing people that are very happy to be driving.
So it's kind of interesting, like Vinny, what you mentioned, like that I feel like the political, like politics in general among normal people is getting like super divisive and just kind of like just really petty. And so we had what was her name? Barbecue Jane, or what's her?
Barbecue Becky.
Yeah, Barbecue Becky.
Oh man, that was bad.
And then we had this lady just call the cops on an 8-year-old girl selling water, so she could go to
Permit Patty.
Permit
Patty and Barbecue Becky. So I just watched the Barbecue Becky video just to give people a little. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this, right? It's this chick that she's in like the Oakleys, and she's standing there on her phone. And you've seen the meme, I'm sure, like crazy all over the place. So I just watched the video. It was kind of a long video. I'll link it in the show notes. I keep forgetting to post these on our website. But apparently it's just this people standing there barbecuing. And so anyone listening, this happened in Lake Merritt, which is in the Bay Area. So what it basically is you have Oakland, and right in the middle of Oakland, there's just this kind of like man-made lake. And then all around the lake, there's just this kind of like public park area, and people, jog across it all the time. Lake Merritt's always like really active. People are always down there hanging out, doing whatever. And so this group of people were barbecuing on Lake Merritt, and I guess this really bothered her. So she called, and she stood there for like 2 hours waiting for the cops to come, because cops don't normally like to come waste their time. And it was just a whole thing. Yeah. And then Chris, if you want to go ahead and explain now this new one here, we got Permit Patty, who is taking issue with 8-year-old girls selling water. Apparently.
Okay. So apparently this 8-year-old girl wanted to go to Disneyland, and she and her mother had lost her job. And so she was like, well, you have to raise the money yourself. And so she started selling water and along the street there. And this lady noticed it, Patty apparently noticed it, and called the cops because the little girl was selling water without a permit. And when of course the mother started filming right when this happened, and she's like, this lady's calling the cops on my daughter selling water. And then she goes up to her, is like, why are you calling the cops? And Patty was like, you're selling water without a permit. And it was just, it's honestly, I don't know what motivates people to do this. Maybe they think that they'll go viral, but I don't know. It must be some desire to be infamous. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what compels people to so quickly, say, you know what? The heck with this 8-year-old girl trying to sell water that doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to call the cops. What? How do you get from being, just a normal person walking down the street and being like, oh, okay, I guess that's okay, to that?
I have no idea. And the video too is hilarious, because she's like, She's calling the cops on this girl who's selling water, and the girl's mom is right there. So the girl's mom busts out her camera and she starts recording her. So what does Permit Patty do? She goes and crouches and hides, like as if that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, she hides behind the little like wall there, and it
right in plain sight.
I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Like, actually motivates people to do stuff like this? Like, the barbecue.
They like
thing.
the taste of boots.
Yeah,
that could be it. So I'd like to point out. So the first one that we were talking about, Barbecue Becky, that happened in Oakland, and this one actually happened in San Francisco. So you're talking about two places now that are like very densely populated areas here in very progressive cities. Right.
I mean, are we getting to a point where if something happens that somebody doesn't like, the default is just to go to some kind of governmental authority? Like there was, because there's multiple instances where reading through it the other night about, people calling the cops because they got 3 chicken nuggets in their 4-piece order or something like that. Like really? Like,
okay, that's a legitimate reason to call the cops. That's theft.
Right, if I don't get the complimentary onion rings in my box of fries, is that also theft? Like I don't know. And I think it's kind of a weird shift to where it's like, oh, this thing's going on and I don't like it, so I need to call someone who has some vested authority in them to try to shut it down. And it's almost childish in a way, because you have siblings and it's like, oh well, she did this against me, I'm going to tell mom. And I don't know, people need to grow up. That's all I got to say. If you don't like it, why don't you just talk to the person?
It's very weird. Well, I mean, clearly this is like, in both of these situations, we're talking about white people calling the cops on black people. And I guess I gotta say, white folks, you are not looking too great right now. This is horrible, right? Like, both of these situations are terrible. I think it's interesting that they both happened not even very far away from each other. San Francisco and Oakland are a bridge away from one another.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, like, coming from our end, libertarian end, the when it comes to police, we want police to focus on actual crimes. And whenever you try to get them to come and deal with barbecues and selling water and lemonade and, who knows what, you're taking up that time that can be devoted to something else. You're annoying them. You're making them have, I guess, a more of a disdain for the public because you're bothering them with stupid stuff.
Well, let's not forget too, these aren't police that are being called in the middle of nowhere, right? Or in a suburban area or anything like that, right? These are both cities that probably have crime that can be better dealt with than sorting out someone barbecuing on public property that you don't agree with.
And not
right. This is Oakland and San Francisco. They've got a bit of a crime rate.
Yeah,
there.
that too. I mean,
I think it's interesting people focus on the race aspect of it, which I'm not saying these people weren't racist for doing this. They very well could have been. But it's like people are like, oh, well, this is white privilege. And, well, I don't think it's white privilege. It does point out the fact that they have a reason to call the cops. Why is barbecuing and selling water a reason to call the cops? There are laws against it. Like, why aren't we focusing on that instead of just more division? We could kind of all come together and be like, hey, this lady shouldn't have even had a reason to call the cops. This is a ridiculous law, because everyone agrees that the whole situation is just completely ridiculous. So let's abolish those laws.
Right.
And I think it's a really good opportunity to point out these stupid laws that get people in trouble and ruin lives over bullshit.
Yeah, and I think
because even the cops don't want to deal with those laws.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with someone barbecuing. They don't want to deal with someone selling water or lemonade.
Well, some of them do.
Even they don't want to have to deal with those laws.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's bad. It's horribly embarrassing to watch that video, that barbecue Becky one. So the permit whatever video, that one was short, right? It was only like 15 seconds. I just watched it. I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing, but it's not long. But this whole the barbecue Becky one that I saw was like 20 minutes long, and it was embarrassing. It's horrible. This girl comes and she tries to call, and she's acting all tough because she's coming there and raining on someone's parade, ruining their day for doing absolutely nothing. The people that were barbecuing weren't even terrible. They were just like shocked, essentially. That basically, like, here's this woman here that is calling the cops on us for barbecuing. It's just it's horrible. So we'll move on from the barbecuing and the permit. So have you guys now heard Maxine Waters just had a speech not long ago?
Yep, I heard about it.
Yeah. So let me go ahead.
Go ahead, Vinny. No, go ahead, Vinny. Sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. I this is from Fox News, just to let you know. So I look all over the place for these articles. Huffington Post, Fox News, they're funner to talk about, right? Because they're all crazy with their headlines. But headline here, Maxine Waters pushes supporters to fight the Trump White House, says that the people will absolutely harass Trump staffers. This is obviously on the heels of all this outrage about what's going on the southern border, families being separated and whatnot. So Waters took to the podium and she said they're not going to be able to go to a restaurant. They're not going to be able to stop at a gas station. They're not going to be able to stop at a department store. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest, and they're going to absolutely harass them. Waters seemed adamant that protesters would continue until the cabinet members tell Trump, no, I can't hang with you. This is wrong. This is unconscionable. Is that
unconscionable?
I don't know. Yeah, whatever. That's going on there. This is a little frightening to me. This is bothersome here. Only because this is supposed to be a politician who, gosh, I guess it's even wrong to say that. For the most part, I guess they're expected to be reserved, but these days they're really not. But it's pretty much a call to conflict, right?
I would say so. I would say that absolutely it's a call, it's pretty blatant what she said, don't let them in your stores. Don't let them in your department stores. Don't let them in your shops. Don't serve them.
Right.
It's a pretty blatant call to action for people to, go against them. Now, that being said,
I think the irony here is beautiful. Right after Bake the Cake.
Right. I mean, it is. I was just going to mention that.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But here's the thing that's bothersome about it, though. So on one hand, of course, I don't care, right? The Bake the Cake thing, look, people, right, freedom of association. So that's fine. If people don't want to let Trump supporters into their establishments, that's fine. But what's bothersome here is you have a politician calling for it as a way to apply social pressure. But the bothersome part is that, as a libertarian, as someone who can sometimes fall on either side of certain issues, right? Just kind of depending on where the data is, where the truth is. I have been called a conservative tons and tons of times. I'm not, right? I've been mistaken for a Trump supporter tons and tons of times. So I worry about this in the sense that you get all these people on the left that are going to get really worked up, and they, maybe they are going to go ahead and try to see this message through. And the thing that I'm concerned about is, when everyone's a Nazi, and everyone that you disagree with is a Trump supporter, and everyone that, you know what I mean? That's when it gets a little more perilous. That's when it gets a little more worrisome, is the fact that you're talking about a bunch of people like radicalizing and deciding to take this big stand are the very same people who have had a real hard time lately, figuring out exactly who is who, because all it really breaks down to is like everyone that disagrees with me is the extreme version of what I hate.
It is bothersome that a politician is calling for this. You'd think that you'd leave that to the activists and let natural boycotts kind of come up naturally, not have a politician who's supposed to be working bipartisan to get things done, creating more division and more conflict. I'm pretty disturbed about that part. Overall, I mean,
it's not a whole bunch different than what Trump did with the NFL in that aspect.
It shouldn't really be the politician's place to be doing that.
Yeah. Imagine the outrage if it were let's say a Republican saying something about anyone who opposes Trump, don't let them in your stores. I mean, that would be all over. It would be this horrible human rights violation, this big stink. And this is kind of like, I didn't hear about it until you just mentioned it just now.
No, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I saw a tweet earlier that was kind of interesting. It said, how long until we have Republican or Democrat only restaurants? So fucking stupid. All of it. The owner, Sanders tweeting it, all of it. Just dumb. America, do yourself a favor, befriend a person who has opposite political views and learn from them. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, everything is politics now. Like, the first thing most people ask other people is, who did you vote for, or what do you believe? And it's everything is politicized nowadays, and it's like, you can't make change and you can't make strides to make yourself or your country better. Not approaching things with an open mind. If you're radicalizing and putting people in these boxes all over the place, like, how are you supposed to work for a better country or for a better society that you want if you're just shutting all of these people out?
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I saw another quote a while ago that was basically to the effect that people have forgotten how to talk about politics civilly with one another. And that's more valuable than knowing more about politics. And because you can know all there is to know about a particular subject, but if you're completely divisive and abrasive, you're not going to convince anybody of your particular point of view.
Right. So I just want to jump in here, and I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to get this out before I lost it, because you mentioned something that I think is really important here. And it's that what seems to have happened, because you said, like, if you're going to be divisive, I feel like this is like the way that political discourse has gone is a prime example of the larger picture of the way that political opinion is now, and just kind of like the way that people are, right? Like when someone goes really extreme left, the first thing that someone will say oftentimes is, this is how you get Trump, right? This is how you got Trump. And I feel like in discourse, it's kind of the same way, right? Like when people are actively playing the offense Olympics, right? Like people are essentially looking for reasons to be offended now, right? The word microaggressions is a thing, and people say it unironically, right? And so people get so annoyed by that and so frustrated by that tactic that you get this, like exactly what you were talking about, Chris, like these divisive approaches, I think. And, neither one is good. I'm not trying to justify either one or forgive either one, but it's just such a prime example to carry on to, Caitlin's point and what you had echoed, Chris. It's the discourse can go so bad so quickly that you get this kind of like reactionary discourse, and now the two sides couldn't be further apart.
And further apart, not only in ideology, but actually on a basis to be able to communicate with one another, because it's almost like they speak a different language. Because
100%.
Your hard right conservative Republican / maybe populist doesn't really understand or care, or is almost offended by the premise of microaggressions. And your far left person doesn't care about, white genocide or whatever it may be, or protecting my borders or something like that, and they're offended by it. So you have no basis of communication with those narratives. So how do you package your message into an ability to be able to communicate with the other side? And so the far left and the far right have not been able to do this. And the thing is, unfortunately, that's what's presented in the media all the time, as this is the left now and this is the right now. And it's far from that in reality. Most people don't even care about those things. They kind of understand what they are, and they just say,
whenever you
my
consider
life,
what is it, 60% of people just don't vote,
because
they're so apathetic to it. So then you split that. So 20% people have a certain opinion and 20% of people have another opinion. I mean, this isn't really a majority of people. I think a lot of times we forget that we assume, that every person, because they do a certain thing or they dress a certain way or whatever the case may be, that they are, a liberal or, a progressive or a Trump supporter or something. And the reality is, I mean, you don't know, unless you actually talk to people, and then you have to actually talk to people. You can't just start making assumptions and going crazy and yelling and, you hate this and, you're a Nazi. And, I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, can you imagine this on literally any other subject, like woodwork,
well, I mean, it's because like people make emotional arguments with emotional pleas and there's no factual backing to them. So they're just screeching at each other from this very emotional place, and it it polarizes people. It's like a psychology thing. Like whenever you're arguing with someone, if you demonize them and you make them what you hate, it's easier to attack them. So that's what's happening, and that's the problem with liberals and conservatives. I mean, really, none of them have a lot of factual evidence behind a lot of their claims, so they're just arguing from these really emotional standpoints. Like conservatives really, really care about, religion and politics and standing up for the flag, and liberals really care about, taking care of your fellow man, but they don't realize that they're stealing from their fellow man to do it. But that's besides the point. But they're just making these horrible emotional arguments, and it just polarizes people and they can't get past it. So I think the solution is for those that do have factual arguments that can reason with people, to package them in a way, like present them emotionally but still have that factual backing to them. It's just hard to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, imagine like woodworkers arguing over proper sandpaper, and imagine how stupid that argument would look. That's basically what all of these things look like. Just like, oh, you're wearing a red flannel shirt. Like you probably use 220 first, huh? I mean that it sounds ridiculous, but that's literally how a lot of these people take it to, like, these extremes. If people are dressed a certain way, if they have a beard, or if they have a beard and, they're not wearing like shorts and, like some sort of shirt with like anchors on it or something like that, and their mustache isn't twirled a certain way, if it's just like a regular beard and they got a John Deere hat, they're one of them Nazis, I mean, it's crazy,
Well, so I mean, I've been confused for, like on that vein, I've been confused for like, a red-blooded Republican for, a couple times, and it's just kind of, because of just, kind of profiling off the way that I dress or something like that, and because I dress pretty normal, Midwestern conservative white guy, and so I've been definitely confused for that, and it's kind of odd how, like there's the two sides going at each other, and there's so many people that are caught in the middle, and the people who are kind of caught in the middle are, plagued with the question of which side do you fit in. And if I could say anybody to like those other people who, don't find themselves on either side of the radical left or the radical right, it's say, like, don't give in, like, be yourself. Don't try to give in to either one of those radical sides, because that's not what reality is.
Right. Profiling, it's a normal thing that people do, like in a sense, like you make judgments, you make assumptions, but if you're doing it to the point where you're getting angry with people and you're paranoid, like you think like, oh, look at that guy, in the little shirt, with his little shiny shoes. I bet he wants to take my guns. I mean, that is just crazy, or looking at someone and being like, oh, they got, they're wearing a trucker cap. They probably don't want to let gay people get married. I mean, that kind of stuff is just insane. I mean, you start to hate people without even getting to know them, and it's no way to live your life.
No, it's got to be heavy, and I'm sure frustrating to be that anxious all the time. And it's something kind of interesting here in this when you look at all of this that's going on. So you've got situations, right? Like, I don't have a problem with recently there was something that passed that said like some judge decided that it's okay for a bar to kick out Trump supporters. And then another news article, we don't even have to go into it because I don't even think there's much more to it than this. Like Sarah Sanders got kicked out of a restaurant too. Mm-hmm. The press secretary there for the White House. I'm sure you guys heard about this. Right. And that kind of
because of Trump was the actual wordage used.
Right. And
when she asked, like, why am I being kicked out? So, yeah.
Right. And so, let's look at what Trump did. So Trump did the same thing essentially that Waters did, right? As he went and tried to get his personal army to go and go set out. So that's the part that bothers me. Right. I don't have a problem with people deciding who they, do and don't want to do business with. But when you've got these like powerful figures in government that are trying to like spearhead these movements, that's when it gets very bothersome to me, because then that's completely different, right? That's manipulation. That's not just people deciding, right? Like you take these videos, for instance, of these chicks calling the cops on people doing absolutely nothing that you should be calling the cops for, and everyone generally decides that they're piles of shit, right? That's a good thing in the sense that now we know that person is a pile of shit. Now we know that the general public also tends to agree that kind of behavior is terrible. And that's organic, that you just kind of see that arise out of people viewing this and reacting to it. But when you've got politicians who are in charge of parties that are in insanely contentious political heat right now, calling for these kind of things, it's concerning, because the levee's got to break at some point, right? Like what's going to give? When is it going to be too far? And I'm not sure what that is going to be.
History would say that, I mean, I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but history notes that when things like this happen and this amount of divisiveness arises, it a lot of times becomes violent. And I hope that we can kind of ascend above that a little bit to not have it be, the red Russians versus the white Russians, or the red Americans versus the white Americans. Like not white Americans, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like ideology based.
I think we already had the red Americans versus the white Americans.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah, I realized that right after
the red Americans.
That did happen. Yeah. So, but what's more bothersome about this is now with all of this that we're talking about. So you've got the right that's bitching and complaining about Sarah Sanders getting kicked out of a restaurant. You've got the left that's bitching and complaining about this cake ruling, right? And they're complaining about this other stuff. Like I have an article here that I'll get into just after I get this spiel out. But you've got these women calling because people are barbecuing and they don't like it, because someone is selling a water bottle. And you're seeing these people so quick to give so much responsibility and so much power to the state to solve these problems, right? You've got people on the left and right that are opposing freedom of association all of a sudden. You've got people that are, like we said, calling cops to do like benign things that cops shouldn't be used to do. And then on the other side, you go and you look at the president of the United States, who is romanticizing autocratic leaders and can't stop talking about taking away due process. So do you see why I'm starting to get a little concerned? Right. It's people cannot stop giving responsibility and power to the government. And if you look all the way up to the top of the government, all Trump can talk about lately is how much he wants to be a dictator as he stands next to dictators.
I wish people stood up at attention when I spoke, just like with Kim Jong-un.
Jesus. Like, is no one else noticing the connections here? Like this is not a recipe for great things that we're looking at right now.
More authority, like recognizing authority and turning to that authority gives it more credence.
That's exactly right.
And if people want to see change, like I hate to use the old adage, but be the change you want to see in the world. Well, to go beyond that, if you actually want something to be fixed, how about you actually just talk to the people who are doing it, like civilly, and see if you can correct it that way. That's how people, did it for a really long time.
It's problem solving.
You don't need to have somebody come in and be an intermediary and fix it for you. You just have to kind of talk to them. Instead of calling the police because you got one less chicken nugget, how about you just go back to the McDonald's and you say, hey, listen, I got one, I was shorted a chicken nugget, and I guarantee you the employees are going to be completely understanding about that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the problem's fixed, and that's just a little example. But with the barbecue, how about you go ask, hey, like, why are you having a barbecue here? Even that is better than, disturbing the cops and, appealing to authority in that situation. It's asinine, it's stupid, and it's incivil to appeal to an established authority that just says they're the boss, and so you have to respect them for it. And now you're just going to say, oh, well, I'm going to respect them because respect them and call them when other people are doing stuff I don't like. No, they're people too. And you're a person that's capable of civility. So talk to them.
Right. And so on that line, then, so I found another article here, this one again from Huffington Post. And so this is another disturbing article to me. It's an opinion piece, and it's titled, "We Can Already See the Damage from the Masterpiece Cake Shop Ruling." The sub-headline here is, the Supreme Court showed it still views the LGBTQ people differently than other minorities, which I don't believe is the case at all. And it just goes on to cite these kind of situations involving LGBTQ community and like Uber drivers who have decided to kick people out of their cars and stuff like that. And they talk about how it's a dangerous thing, but something stood out to me. And while I don't agree with this article and I don't agree with the sentiment of this article, because basically all it is it's calling freedom of association dangerous, which, people should think about that. When you think about freedom of association, you have this guy sitting here writing this article talking about how it's dangerous, right? What's the alternative? Right? The alternative to have people sit and be forced to patronize establishments that are full of people that don't like them. Right? That's not fair to anybody. That's not a situation anyone should go through. I don't want to have to be forced to go spend time with or give things to people that I know don't like me. I don't want to be around people that don't like me. Right? I'd rather surround myself with people that I like and people that like me as well. But anyhow, all that aside, this bit in this article did stand out to me because I think it speaks a little bit more largely to kind of what we're dealing with here, as far as some of this people in this country and how they think. So in this article, he at some point he starts talking to a staff lawyer for the ACLU's Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and HIV project, who wrote about a case in the New York Times. And here's the bit of text here. Some of the jurors, and now to be clear, I'm sorry I didn't clarify. This is a story about someone who was sentenced to death, and the reason he was sentenced to death as opposed to a life sentence is basically because he was gay. And here was what was written in the article. Some of the jurors who imposed the death penalty on Charles Rhines, who was convicted of a murder, had said that they thought the alternative, a life sentence served in a men's prison, was something he would enjoy too much as a gay man.
Holy shit. God.
Yeah.
That's basically recognizing that a prison sentence includes, rape. That's basically implying that.
Right.
So how do people just have the cognitive dissonance to say, well, okay, I guess that's considerable in this situation, but not in any other. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
This is so to me, this is very fascinating, right? I do not like the Huffington Post. I do not like this article. It's not something that I agree with, but is this one of those weird things to, you're reading something, you're like, I don't agree with this. This is dumb. And then you read this and it's like, what? And now we have found our middle ground because this is garbage, right? Like this sentiment here being expressed by these jurors. It follows up to say, during deliberations, the jury had often discussed the fact that Mr. Rhines was gay, and there was a lot of disgust about it. One juror recalled in an interview, according to the court petition. Another said that jurors knew he was gay and thought that he shouldn't be able to spend his life with men in prison. A third recounted hearing that if the jury did not sentence Mr. Rhines to death, that if he's gay, we'd be sending him where he wants to go.
Oh my God.
Right.
It's like these people have never met a gay person in their life.
Or never been to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of those things probably. Which I would challenge the court in the premise of a jury of their peers. You think if it was truly a jury of his peers, that
I don't know.
they would have ruled the same way.
Fellow citizens, I think, is as far as peers.
I think it's pretty safe to say that this was a jury full of boomers.
Yeah, exactly.
This was. Yeah. All right, everybody who's listening, thank you a bunch. So don't forget, you can find us on the website at think-liberty.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thinkliberty.tl. You can find us on Steam at Minds and Twitter at think_liberty. You can find us at Instagram at thinkliberty, one word. You can go ahead and please follow us or favorite us or subscribe or whatever it is that you do on the podcast platform that you like to use, be it Stitcher, iTunes, or Overcast or anything like that. And leave a review if you can. It really helps. And tell your friends. That helps us too. Is there anything else that I forgot, guys? I've been doing this the plug thing solo, so I just try to burn through it as fast as I can. Anyone else?
Steam it and Minds are think-liberty.
Think-liberty, not _liberty?
Think-liberty. Yep.
Oh, damn it. Well, it's okay.
That's fine. That's all right.
Well, I'll do it right from now on.
Okay.
Caitlin, do you have anything before we go?
Nope, you got it all.
Alrighty. Well, on behalf of everyone that joined me tonight, thank you so much for listening. And whether or not you like it, we'll probably be back again.